So hello, everybody, and welcome to today's device management interface call. Thanks for joining. As usual, the call is public and recorded, will be shared on YouTube. Please be mindful of the comments you make and the information you share. Again, it will be live. I don't think we have a meet on the call. Let me try and ping him on Slack to make sure that he can join. Okay, so let's. So as per yesterday, there is code freeze on the Volta repos. That is not strictly tied to the DMI, but we managed to get in the BBSIM implementation that was updated to 0.11.0, which is kind of the latest version here. So that's good. It is in BBSIM, and the test seemed to be passing, so that's pretty good. The hardware, unfortunately, has not been yet tested due to some pending things that need to be agreed upon before we can proceed on that. So the hardware testing is still missing. So I'm a little reluctant to make a 1.0. We can move it to maybe a 0. I'm not sure. We can maybe extend and like say it's almost there, and we can do a release as soon as the hardware test is there. But to me, it's fine doing a 1.11.1 at the time that we desire and prefer. I am not aware of anything that needs to go inside the interface in the upcoming time. So even 0.11.0 could be a good release for the to pair with the 2.7 Volta release. What is everybody's thoughts on this?
I think it's fine for us. I think we noticed perhaps one little addition we might need for some type of for a timing interface or something, but it's really not super important. This can wait. We talked already. It's for clock interface. We wanted to have I think the protocol. I'm not the expert on this. We discussed this with Amit already.
Okay.
He might do this. So sorry, I'm not really that prepared on it. Give me a second. This is just for the reporting of the inventory.
Okay. But it's not to configure the clock.
No. It's just to show it. We want to show something. I mean, there's a clock interface, and we want to show that there's something. And
so it's not for like the NTP protocol, things like that.
No, it's not.
Okay.
Give me a second. I'll look it up what it is. I'm really not the expert on this.
Okay. In the meantime, maybe the folks from Radisys, do you guys have any suggestion, any comment that you would like to have in the upcoming weeks before the Volta release, even though we're not tied to it in any means?
Andrea, if I understand, what is the plan of the contribution is what you're asking from the Open DM agent?
Well, I'm saying not really. It's just if there is anything that you think is strictly needed right now, things that like you would like to see before we make the final release to go with the Volta 2.7.
Okay, maybe we would like to understand the timelines, and we'll come back with a plan. But yes, we would like to have the basic OpenDM agent with all the required documentation, makefile, README, and basic procedures, at least the hardware management procedures working end to end. Makefile, README, and the code repository. Yeah, with all the classes and the methods implementation.
When is this coming along?
I'll update you in a mail on the plan, Andrea. Exact timelines.
Okay.
In you shortly.
Okay.
But yes, we would like to implement the hardware management RPCs and have the basic skeleton code ready with the OpenDM agent. That's the plan for ourselves for the next 1 or 2 months.
Okay. And how is it going?
Yes, basically we have the basic makefile with commands, and the README we have a basic one, and the hardware management, the start managing device is what we have implementing now. And we need one like repository, the OpenDM agent, to be set up in the open code community.
Okay.
That's one request from our side, so that we can submit the initial patch set in the coming week or so.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said in the last meeting, the DMI interface, GitHub itself will contain the auto-generated code for C++. We want to even contribute to the DMI. The C++ auto-generated code, we would like to submit the patch set.
Okay.
Request the community team members to review and merge it. C++ auto-gen code merge on the DMI.
Okay. And do you have that already?
Yes, we have that already. And we are just waiting on the institutional CLI from our management. Once that is sorted out, I think we should be able to push the patch set. So Babu is here. Babu is our program manager. And yeah, Babu, Andrea is the lead for the DMI program.
Thanks, Chandra. Me and Andrea met in a different context a couple of weeks ago. Hi, Andrea.
Hey. Okay, great. So yeah, if you need anything on the CLA front, let me know. I am more than happy to help there. I'll make sure you guys have a repo for the OpenDM agent set up. There is a link where you can actually ask for that. Let me see if I can find it right away. In the meantime, Holger, did you find anything on the timing?
Yeah, it's just so we have the possibility to connect an external clock to our OLT, and we just want to show the protocol, which could be, I think it's called BITS, BITS. This is all we want to do. So just to make it obvious that this is a port for a clock module to connect to the OLT. So this is a physical clock. This is not some. I think it can be used to. It can be a T1, E1 transceiver or something. Can receive a clock from something. So it's just only for showing something in the inventory.
Okay. Okay, then sounds good. Amit, do you have any update on it since you joined? Anything you want to?
Sorry, I joined late, so can you just help me out to refresh?
The discussion was that so I asked if anybody had any update to anything that they would like to come into the interface fairly soon. And Holger brought up this timing thing that needed to show the clock. It's related to inventory, and it also shows the protocol for which the OLT uses to connect to the upstream clock. So I'm just wondering if you have anything for the team here, anything you want to share.
No, not yet. But so Holger, just to understand this a little bit more. So I think the requirement is that we need to have a different protocol for the port, right? And the protocol would be bits.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Apart from that, do we need any other change?
No, that's all.
Okay. Yeah, I think then that's pretty simple.
Okay, if you don't mind, Amit, then please do submit a patch and we can take a look at that and merge it if needed, okay?
Sure, I'll do that. You can assign it to me.
Okay. While you're on the topic of the implementation, can you give us some more detail on the BBSIM 0.11.0 implementation?
Yeah, so what we did is we upgraded the BBSIM's DMI server to the latest version of DMI, which is 0.11.0. And we did the implementation. So I think what basically came in is the logging and I think the startup config RPCs. Along with that, we had made some changes on the DMI regarding the error reasons, and BBSIM was lacking that, right? So now it's all updated, and the README is updated as well, so you could go in and have a look at it.
Okay, thanks. That's great. And that was that to everybody's thought, that was merged yesterday before code freeze, so it will be in the BBSIM version that will be released at the end of March, which is great. Okay, for the Radisys team, both Chandra and Babu, I added here a link that you can use to create, to ask to create a repo. So you can put the description and you can put the types of things that you want in there. I could do it for you guys if you want, but if you do it, I think you can put a better description and things like that, given that you will be the main contributors of the repo. Okay.
Thanks, Andrea. Thank you.
Okay, great. Anything else from your side, from the Radisys team? How's the implementation going?
Yes, basically we have now the skeleton code structure with the gRPC server and the separation of the classes and methods.
And this is already, you have also already tried installing it on a physical OLT?
Yes.
That's good. Okay. Any question while you're implementing this? Any question for the team?
Yes, mainly we would like we would request your support on the Jenkins integration. Like we'll be sharing the documentation about the Jenkins integration. We are following the way it is done in the open OLT agent.
Yes.
Okay, we are just exactly using the same principles here.
I think that is perfectly fine. And if you look at the link over here, it will tell you, it will ask you a few of these things, and we will put in place automated tests and ways of including this into Jenkins. So whenever the repo is created, we can work on that to create the hooks for Jenkins.
Okay, sure. And our second question is basically on the unit testing. Any guidance, as we have chosen C++ for the programming of the OpenDA agent, should we have a C++ unit testing?
Unit testing is always good. I don't aim to have a perfect set of unit tests, so not 100% coverage. Anything around 75, 80% coverage is good enough, I think. I don't have much experience in C++ framework, unit test frameworks. Maybe somebody else can suggest something.
OpenOLT agent is also using CPP unit, right?
Yes.
Yes, yes, sir.
Maybe you can just use the same framework, right?
Okay, so for the code merge, is the acceptance criteria that unit test cases should pass with 75 code coverage? Is that so, or?
The idea is that usually whenever some code comes in, you add the tests for it, and in our Jenkins job, the make test runs the unit tests you have, and if they pass Jenkins +1s, they pass, and among other things, Jenkins gives a +1. So those are used there, and that's what I would do to keep them used. Just put them as part of the make test target of the make file.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Amit. Thanks, Andrea. And one more question that popped up is, in the last meeting, we discussed about configuration persistency on the device. Like we mentioned, is there a real need, or should we expect northbound layers to do the playback whenever it reboots?
Yes.
And for the device to persist, then we discussed on a couple of options, like whether it should have a flat file or some memory mapped IO. Although it is in the disk, but you will have a memory mapping so that you can access like a cache.
Yes.
And options we discussed where was like Redis DB or any full-fledged database. But considering the amount of configuration we have as part of device management, not much like Volta has, the hierarchy or the complexity of it. So that's one point we discussed. Let's say if we don't expect device to persist the configuration and we expect northbound system to do either device manager or NEM components, right? So in that case, they should come to know that the device has rebooted.
Yes.
They play the configuration.
Yeah.
So what is the thought on this? Like every time device goes for a reboot, maybe due to like software watchdog triggers a reboot, or somebody presses the power button, or maybe application reboot. So we need some indication that should tell the northbound systems that, okay, now we need to play back.
Don't we have such an event already, Amit?
No.
Okay. So we don't have an event device rebooted in our set of events that can be generated.
We don't, but also the way we are talking in this case, right, of implementing the DMI interface or terminating the DMI interface on the box. So if the box is hard rebooted, there is no way that event can be generated.
One thing, Amit, like once it comes back, it can send so that it says that okay, I was rebooted due to whatever the reason. Maybe it can figure out if possible. Then northbound systems can play. But as you said, before going down, it may not have enough room to send the message and go down.
Yeah, so in that case, what would happen is if it never comes up, say it doesn't come up for the next 30 minutes, operating systems won't even know about it.
Yes. But if it comes up, it has to be brought back to the same state it was earlier. So that's the thing. Like maybe whenever it comes up, if we can send a reboot indication with a restart cause, what prompted it to reboot, maybe northbound systems can take some action. Maybe replay of configuration.
But I mean, wouldn't the normal approach not be that, I mean, if the device reboots, you will see that your gRPC connection breaks at that point in time, right? But it could also break because of many other reasons. So it doesn't have to be a device reboot. There could be something in the network in between. So shouldn't every time you lose the gRPC connection, then you have to recreate it, and then you have to somehow figure out by reading the uptime or something if the device has rebooted? I'm not sure if something like the uptime is part of the inventory right now, but
so there's
probably it is.
The OpenOLT agent has a mechanism which is, well, the OpenOLT adapter has a mechanism that sends an heartbeat to the OpenOLT agent periodically. And I think that that could be something we maybe look at implementing in either NEM or that DM component that sits outside of the box. I don't have an issue with inserting a device rebooted event that it's triggered. And it is fine triggering it whenever the device comes up again. And if it doesn't come up, I think that getting a notification when the gRPC is lost, gRPC connection is lost, is something that NEM or any device manager should have. If you lose a gRPC connection to somebody that you're connected to, you should have a knowledge of that. So
yeah, but as I said, I mean, there can be several reasons why you lose your gRPC connection. For example, you're doing software update in NEM or something, so you will definitely lose your gRPC connection. So afterwards, you have to somehow figure out. So if you're then again connected to the device, then you have to figure out if the device did a reboot or something like that. So I don't think that it makes sense that, because it could be that, I don't know, for some hours there's an outage on the system north of you. So when do you know that you should send the event? And do you get my point? So
yeah,
I think the system north of it should poll some state and ask, and then figure out if something is needed or is not needed. Like an uptime. I don't know. I mean, do we have an uptime in the inventory?
Yes, I think we do have, and I agree, Holger, that it's a little complex. If it is a momentary fluctuation, then we can expect the device to be in the same state and need not do any specific action. Only if it is like a long time that you disconnected and now connected back, maybe you should have some sort of audit to know whether you have to fully play configuration or what action you have to take.
But don't you, regardless of how long the break is, the communication break is, you always have to do a recheck to see if you need to reset, whether that's having some sort of sequence number to see if it, or a state hash. You have to do some sort of check anytime you reconnect to see if a reset needs to be done, regardless if it's 1 second or 20 seconds or 20 hours.
So are you saying that you keep track of the last successful procedure you could execute? Then on any procedure, if initiated, you would always return that device unreachable, if I'm, or maybe service unreachable, because the client on the NEM itself will fail, and maybe you would ask the user to retry it again. So no new northbound configurations, but whatever was already done. So now the question is when to play back. How do you know what state the device is in? Whether it's a clean slate or it has the pre-configuration already there. Let's say if there was a network break for some time.
I like so in the OpenONU Go adapter, we did this with the ONU using the MDS counter. And if the counter was different, that's operation-based counters and messages exchange counter and things like that, we just reboot and we do the configuration. So I think what David was suggesting with a state hash could be a good option. Why not?
But what could that be? I mean, this would have to be something which is offered by the DMI interface somehow, or the DM interface somehow.
Yeah, we need an extension. That's what we're saying. It's not there at the moment. What do you guys think? No thoughts?
Maybe I need to understand more on the state hash. If you can share some thoughts on this, it helps.
It might be easier just to keep something simple as anytime any state changes, increment a counter, and on startup or reboot, just initialize it to random value.
Okay.
So with a 32-bit counter, that gives you a 1 in 4 billion chance of
Understood. Okay.
Or
But
just always initialize it to -1.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you always know you need to reset.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a hash, right? That all you're doing is some sort of delta.
Yeah.
Good old TCP handshake.
Yeah, just something so we don't have to iterate over any kind of collections and all, since it is C++.
So, I'm sorry, but I'm just trying to understand the use case, right? Because it's on the management plane, right? The DMI interface between the NEM and the box or the device manager. Why would the NEM really need to keep a connection open with the device all the time? Whenever it wants to perform an operation, it could open a connection, open the gRPC connection, perform it, and close the connection, right?
Yes, but if something happens during that connection, or when the device goes away and you want to, and you go back to it and you want to make sure that everything is fine, like maybe you ask for an RPC and you don't get a reply because the device is rebooting. The next RPC you do, the first one might be, what's the proper state? Is there any action that I need to take because you rebooted? So even if the connection is not always open, it's good to have this check because you might want to do it periodically. It's like an audit.
Yeah, but no, what I'm trying to think about is that, okay, if the device rebooted, then what is the expectation? What is NEM supposed to do?
Repush the configuration as it was expected for the device.
But I thought the configuration is supposed to be persisted, right, by the device manager or the device.
The initial point of this discussion was, what if we don't persist?
But why wouldn't we persist it?
Good question.
Amit, in the last meeting, when we brought this topic up, there was a discussion that what we have done on the open OT interface, that no configuration shall be persisted on the device.
No, but the kind of configuration we're talking on the OpenOLT interface is different. That is control plane. You're like programming flows when ONUs are coming in, going out, versus this, which is on the management plane. And this configuration doesn't change, right? It's not like so the ONUs coming in are more like a session being set up and then they go away, right? It disappears. But this is things like persistent configuration, or what do you call the startup configuration, or where the logging endpoint is, or where the message bus is. Do we really need to configure this every time the box comes in?
Amit, maybe like we can divide the configuration into two. One thing is like essential configuration, like the Kafka endpoint, message bus endpoint, that one. Second thing is, for each of the hardware component, you have a mechanism of setting the admin state is configured, what are the sensor values, thresholds. So I'm talking about the second set.
What happens in box replacement, where I put a new box with the same IP address, so the NEM reconnects to it?
Yeah, so David, the APIs are there to repush the configuration. You can set the configuration anytime you need. But my question is it mandatory, or do we define it in terms of the workflow itself, saying that whenever the box reboots, that this is what you need to do?
Again, can you guarantee that every implementation has persistent configuration?
No, so that's what, if the interface mandates that, then it will be clear at that point itself, right, when the implementation is happening, that whether this is possible or not. Can this box satisfy this interface or not?
I mean, as a management system, there was pointed out someone's going to want to do a periodic audit. Is the config on the box what I thought it was? Right. So there's a need to be able to do a quick audit. Having to pull back the entire config and do a diff will get you that audit, but it's not the most efficient way to do an audit. If you have some sort of hash counter, whatever you want to call it, that enables an northbound system to do a quick audit check. And then the northbound system can decide if it wants to push anything. I think that's where I was starting this original, when I chimed in the first time, where I was thinking. So do I want to push, things every time a device reboots? I don't know. It depends on the device state. I don't know what the device state is. And even if a device promises that it provisions or stores its configuration as a management system, it's my duty not to trust it.
So I think that what we're saying is we need an audit API, and there are two options. One is the device persists the configuration on a file, and after reboot, it relearns the configuration from that file. And in that way, the audit returns okay to whoever asks it, or the device does not persist it, and we push the configuration from them or the device manager because the audit failed. Is that a fair assessment?
So there is a little bit of confusion for me in this. When we say repush the configuration from NEM or device manager, yes, it cannot be, with what we are proposing, it cannot be or, right? It always has to be the NEM, because the NEM could in one architecture talk directly to the device using the DMI interface. In another architecture, talk to the device through the device manager.
Yes.
Right. And given that the NEM would want to handle the devices in the same way, because that's the idea of having a consistent DMI interface, right? Which is same across the different implementations. So the decision has to be, or this logic has to be built into the NEM. Because in one case, if the the device manager does it, then the NEM has to know that, okay, for this kind of OLT, the device manager is going to take care of it, versus this other kind of OLT, I am supposed to take care of it.
Well, agreed. That's a good point, Amit. So what I would suggest is to persist the configuration in this case. So as we were saying, we persist whatever level of configuration we need, and but then NEM needs to have the capability that if something went completely wrong, he can repush that configuration. Because it needs to have that capability independently if it's the DM somewhere, adapter somewhere, or it's on the box. Because even if the DM adapter restarts, it needs to maybe get pushed configuration again. So independently, NEM has to have some capability. To put less capability as possible into NEM, I would persist the configuration on the device to a file. Does that make sense?
Yes, I have one associated question. As David mentioned, in case of a complete box replacement.
Yes.
So you expect NEM to know that, okay, it's a replacement scenario, and it is expected that NEM does a complete configuration on the new replaced device.
In that case, it will. So what will happen in that case is that the box will come up. The audit will return this doesn't have any configuration, and NEM will repush it. It would be the same thing as if an outside of the box software completely lost the storage, and you would have to repush the configuration to it. So I think it's a valuable scenario.
Yeah. So this would be considered like a new box connecting to the system.
Effectively, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead, Amit.
Sorry. So NEM, whatever the earlier UUIDs being learned from the old hardware, that should be invalidated, and it should relearn the UUIDs and everything afresh with the replaced hardware.
Because the UUID is different, given that it's based on the serial number.
Okay, understood. So it's a fresh provisioning in case of replacement. Nothing from the previous session should be carried forward. Okay.
Amit, you were saying something?
No.
Okay. But Amit, you said that NEM doesn't have to be connected to the OLT the whole time, or to the device manager the whole time. How will NEM know that it has to do something? What will be the trigger?
Okay, so that the OLT is gone. So I think Andre already suggested that there should be an event, right, when the OLT starts up, right? So that it's come back. That could be one event through the interface through which it could be done.
And when we speak about event, it's always Kafka, right? So even if the device manager is running on the box, there will be a Kafka interface, and not a gRPC interface.
I still think we will have both.
I mean, both. I mean, always both, or one or the other. I mean, it's the problem with gRPC might be that if there's no gRPC session, then you cannot send an event back, right? Because the device cannot connect to NEM. It's always NEM who has to connect. With Kafka, it's different. So the device can push events to Kafka. So if there's always Kafka, then this is pretty simple. The device could simply send a message to Kafka saying that, I don't know, I rebooted, please configure me, or whatever.
Yeah, so can we like, at least for now, keep it simple and go with this? And as things mature, maybe we come up with the other options as well.
I would agree.
Yeah, so at least have things firm up a little bit more, and as we unearth more use cases and things like that, we could always like change course for this particular aspect.
I would agree.
Okay, if I understand, sorry, Amit, are you saying once the device comes back, it will send a Kafka message?
Yeah.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
And for now, maybe you can hold on the implementation of this part in the DM agent that you're working on for now, given that you have not yet worked on the Kafka bus. Let's start on a few other things and then you can put this in.
Sure.
Okay, good. Anything else you want to discuss, guys?
Yes, one thing on the component parent-child hierarchy. There has been a definition about the parent position and children association. Any documentation, or I need some more information on that?
I think it's in the README.
So Chandra, are you talking about the parent position attribute that is there?
Not the attribute, like model of the device for that. I mean, if there is any reference, like for example, SFP association with a port, and many ports are associated with the device, and you have CPU memory. So what is the relationships among the components, hardware components, parent and child? So that is left to the device to say that relationship?
Yeah, so the device, it only will know that, right?
Okay.
So for example, if the fans are like hot swappable, replaceable, right? then they might be inside some cages. So you would have a container inside which the fan would be there. If not, then the fan might be directly embedded onto the whatever chassis, right, or the main board. So depending on the type of hardware, you can model the tree.
Sure, Amit. Then we need to come up with a modeling for, let's say, our hardware.
Yes, yes.
You can take a look at what is done in BBSim. And if you keep it close enough to that one, I think it's good.
Okay, sure. Thanks. Thanks, Amit and Andrea.
Perhaps we could also share what we report as an inventory for our OLT. Perhaps this helps.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be good, Holger. Thanks.
We're currently in the process of changing little things because some parts were still missing. So do you need this immediately? I mean, we will release a new version of our device manager end of the month. This is not in. This is too late for you, I guess, right? Perhaps
not
mid of next week. So,
yeah, that will help.
Okay.
Okay. I think it's good. Okay. Okay. Then Amit, can I ask you to start also putting something around the audit ideas, maybe, for us to discuss? Whenever you have the time, this not being urgent, it can be done as part of the next release.
Yeah, we can spend some time on this.
Okay, thanks. Anything else you guys want to bring up?
Yes, I think we discussed on the timer. So as we have multiple configurations for each sensors, the granularity could be different. So you may say 10 seconds, 25 seconds of any configuration. So we are thinking we'll use the ONLP platform APIs to have a timer wheel, and that implementation we are planning to choose. Any concerns or inputs on that from the community? ONLP, we have exercised this implementation like in our solution. So we would like to use the ONLP APIs for the timer.
I think that's fine. And yes, last time we also discussed on the possibility of getting an automated notification on SFP plugin and plug out. Unfortunately, that is not supported. I've done some inquiries within ONF. So a timer that checks is good. It's the only possible solution.
Sure, Andrea. I think that's all I had, the questions for discussion. Thanks.
Okay. Anybody else has any thoughts? Okay, then if not, we'll reconvene in 2 weeks, and maybe by that time we will have some proposal on the timing and the audit, and we can discuss those. And in the meantime, please keep us posted. I think we will release, we will leave 0.11.0 as the implementation for 2.7. Put that into the Volta 2.7 release note saying that it is compatible with 0.11.0 of the DMI. Okay, thanks everybody. Have a great day and afternoon for those of you in Europe. Cheers, bye-bye.
Thank you, bye.